Hello, and welcome to the SAP SuccessFactors Best Run Workforce HR Demo Series. Today's session in our webinar series is on recruiting. My name is Jessie Labenmolf, and I'm going to cover some brief housekeeping before we begin. We'll be addressing your questions at the end of the demonstration, but you're encouraged to submit questions throughout the webinar using the Q&A panel on the left side of your console. If you experience any technical issues, please write an email or send me a note there in that same Q&A panel, and I'll help you out shortly. We are recording today's session, and we will be sending out a link to the replay of this webinar in the coming days. Keep an eye out for it in your email. Finally, I'd like to highlight some additional resources, which are also located on the left side of your console, just under that Q&A panel. Here you'll find some assets available for download, as well as links to upcoming events, including the rest of this webinar series. And with that, we're ready to dive in. Today's session will be led by Rick Lind, who is a Senior Solutions Consultant here at SAP SuccessFactors. Rick, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you, Jessie, and good afternoon, everyone. So again, my name is Rick Lind, and as Jessie mentioned, I'm one of the solution consultants. I'm on the SAP SuccessFactors Customer Success team. I'm also a recruiting and onboarding product specialist, and I'll be taking you through a brief overview and demonstration of the SAP SuccessFactors recruiting solution. Before we actually get into the demo itself, I do have a poll question that I'd like you all to participate in, and that is, what is the average number of days to fill a typical position? And I'll give everybody a few seconds to take a guess, or for those who are really in tune with the difficulties and all the challenges to finding the right talent, given all the talent shortage that we have, go ahead and provide an answer. The shortage also means that time to fill is increasing, if you can guess where we're going here. And we'll come to the end of the presentation before the demo while we'll look at the results of the poll. As far as the causes of ineffective recruiting, there's lots of different reasons, obviously, with this talent shortage, right? There's disparate tools that different companies use. Especially around recruiting marketing, there might be different systems or different vendors that are trying to sort of pick and choose a strategy on being able to, what's the best way of attracting better candidates to apply to your positions versus your competitors, right? There's typically a lack of integration. If there are many of these systems, they're not interconnected, the data doesn't flow back and forth, which leaves a lot of these gaps in the business and recruiting strategy. And tied to all of that is, there's typically a lot of mixed messages on your branding, and candidates and, potential candidates don't understand what your company is about, or maybe what it's like to further their career with your organization. And a lot of the process is reactive, right? The typical ATS, right, or applicant tracking systems, where we have more managing of applicants, right, that have already applied to requisitions. But how do we go out and proactively find the talent in these different talent pools, right, to attract better candidates and help develop those, I'll call them leads, to become your best candidates to fill those positions? And there's really typically a lack of adequate means of connecting all the candidates on a global scale for those that operate in different global and emerging markets. So what does SuccessFactors uniquely do to help you overcome these barriers? Well, we provide a complete recruiting solution that allows you to source, engage, and hire the best talent with a comprehensive but yet simple solution that gives you guidance across all these steps. And coupled with all of this are great analytics that will help you identify the best talent, hire them as quickly as possible, and then move on to the next part of your strategy. How do we deliver this? There's three main components of our recruiting solution. The sourcing area, so that's, think of that as candidate relationship management, to be able to identify the best talent pools, being able to source and market your jobs through an embedded job board aggregator or distribution platform, and we'll get into that with the demo that SuccessFactors uniquely provides within our solution. We provide optimized career site experiences, search engine optimization when it comes to the middle section here for the candidate experience. It's a responsive design site. It's mobile friendly. And it's designed for all types of candidates, whether I'm a very passive candidate, I'm just checking out your site, I'm not ready to apply, all the way through to somebody who is actively managing an application from start to finish. And also, just as important is the recruiter experience, so giving them all of the tools that they need to manage their pipelines, automated workflow actions, mass actions, and then your standard applicant flow activities, interviews, offers, etc. All right, let's look at our poll results, and everybody did very well. That is the answer. The answer is 52, and it's actually gone up 4 days over the last, I believe, 4 years due to all of the hyper-competitiveness around finding the best candidates. Okay, let's get into the demo here, and if you give me just 1 second, I will share my screen. And we'll look at the demonstration specifically from a few different perspectives. And Jesse, if you wouldn't mind confirming that you can see my screen.
It just popped up. We're good to go.
All right, great, thank you. So we'll look at SuccessFactors recruiting from a couple of different perspectives, mainly from the recruiter perspective. We'll start here. This is my job requisitions dashboard. I'm logged in as Tessa. This is the first screen that she sees when she logs into SuccessFactors. This is a great screen for the recruiter, but also keep in mind that SuccessFactors is designed for all types of users, so whether you're a recruiter, a hiring manager, an approver, an interviewer, a candidate, right? There's role-based permissioning around all of the security, so I'll be showing you a lot of things just within the next probably like 20 minutes or so, but keep in mind that you can grant or revoke access for these functions, as well as the data that you see on a per-user basis. Specifically with Tessa here, she has this job recs dashboard. It's very easy to navigate through here. It's just a couple of clicks from this portal screen to get to pretty much anywhere within the entire platform. We wanted to take a look at, let's say, this project manager job profile. Another great way of organizing all of your job profiles through the SuccessFactors platform is that you can create this catalog or library of position-related information that ties directly to your core HR data. So with SuccessFactors in our Employee Central core HR system, this is feeding all of the relevant position information directly to the requisition details within recruiting. And this job profile includes things like, in this demo example, my job description, a summary, some competencies that have been defined specifically for this profile, some skills, education requirements, even interview questions. But I have a lot of flexibility in how I want to define what my job profiles look like. And with SuccessFactors, we give you all of the self-service tools, and your administrators can do this. And they don't have to be technical resources, but your HR administrators can very easily define what these profiles look like using what we refer to as our job profile builder directly within the recruiting solution here. And there's some embedded machine learning that's part of our platform that's provided by the SAP Artificial Intelligence platform specifically. Oops, get rid of that. Where the analyzer can actually scan through all of your position-related information, in this case, this project manager job profile, and it can call out specific items where we might want to alter or just make some changes to any part of the profile itself to make it more successful, and that will attract better candidates to fill the position. So things like this gender bias scan. So the machine learning tool actually scanned through this job description field here and actually tried to find any specific words or phrases where the tone of the description may lean outside of a gender-neutral sort of tone around the description. And in this particular case, it looks like it found one specific word that leans a little bit more towards the feminine side, where we might want to consider changing that specific word to make it more neutral. And the studies have shown that the more neutral your descriptions are, as well as things like adding in specific skills or competencies that tie specifically to this type or category of job, as well as obviously something like the salary requirements if it's based off of industry salary survey data. All of this is factored into what SAP and SuccessFactors uses to do this analyzing of your job descriptions, so that you can post a specific position externally that's going to be more attractive to the more qualified candidates to get them to your career site to apply. Okay. When it comes specifically to marketing those jobs, right, once we have our position information all created, our requisition and all the requirements are locked in, things like pre-screening questions that we might want to attach to the requisition when candidates are applying, we can post the job directly through the platform as well. So this goes back to what I was saying earlier around, we provide an embedded job board or just posting aggregator directly through the recruiting solution. So the recruiter here can very easily pick and choose from thousands of external sites to post the job, where when candidates see the position posted on, in this case, Glassdoor or Indeed or Simply Hired, and they click on the link to apply, they'll automatically be redirected to the SuccessFactors hosted career site for your organization, and will track all of the analytics of the activity of the candidates that come from those originating sources. And it's not just things like job boards. That also includes any sort of campaigns through social media that you might do. You have the ability to create these short URLs or bit.ly links. You can create QR codes, so there's tons of different ways of using, whether it's electronic or even print advertising, to market your positions externally to, again, we want to identify the best candidates from the best sites to apply for the positions. I'll show you this LinkedIn example really quickly. So with one click directly from SuccessFactors, I can share in a post the specific job posting URL through my LinkedIn feed, and I can either do this publicly or I can share it with any one of my connections or groups of people. And in this case, my colleague Joe here, if he receives that LinkedIn email and clicks on the link, we'll track all of the activity of what he does. Is he just going to visit our career site and check out the position? Is he going to apply for a job? All of those analytics get tracked through the SuccessFactors platform. This is an example of what one of those reports look like. This is more than just a source effectiveness-based report. This is one of about a dozen sourcing analytic-based reports that come standard within our solution. What this is effectively is telling us is that for all the different types that we post our jobs, that's this gray column over on the left here, what's the volume of all of the visitor traffic that is driven to the career site from those sources? Things like email campaigns that we might do, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes around the talent pools with the CRM capabilities. Job aggregator sites, major job boards, niche sites, pay-per-click campaigns, how many candidates come in through the search engines, our social media campaigns that we create, right? Of all the volume that comes, how many of those candidates are actually qualified, right? What's the quality of all that volume? That's the blue section here in the middle, right? How many people do we interview? How many do we actually hire? This applies per hire column. This is a great recruiter productivity metric because this tells me how many resumes or applications do my recruiters have to look at to get one hire from each one of those sources. And then the green section, that's the exciting stuff. That's the cost, the ROI. And these are the hard dollar costs specifically, if we were going to just look at the niche job board category over the last year, it looks like Glassdoor was the top source of hire. If I scroll down just to show you the performance of the source, you can see that we hired about 149 candidates over the last year, and in this demo example, we spent over $200,000 for those hires. Now, there might be a perfectly good reason why we're spending those dollars, but just to have this information, right, the data that is all being collected throughout the process so that we can identify where are the best sources to market our jobs, market our brand to attract the best people to our site. If I switch gears here, I'm going to now play the role of the candidate. Imagine if I find one of your positions on the career site. I'm going to use the SAP career site as the example here, and you can check this out yourselves. It's just jobs.sap.com. This is a completely mobile-friendly career site. I just minimize my screen here. You can see, imagine if I was on my iPhone, right? If I'm just checking out the career site, if I want to search for jobs, if I have additional information that I want to research about the company, I can do this directly from my phone, all the way through a full application. I can upload a resume. It all can be done on a mobile device, as well as even location-based searches using a Google Maps widget that I can just pinch and zoom either on my phone, or in this case, I maximize it back to my browser view on my laptop. But it's very, very candidate friendly, and it's for all types of candidates. If I'm somebody who's just, seeing what's out there, there's tools that are set up here. I can create a job alert, email me matching jobs based off of my pre-sales criteria that I have, and maybe I receive those alerts every week. Versus if I'm ready to apply now, I can go into a full application process, and if I log in here, I have a saved profile just to quickly show you how you can very easily configure a complete employment application for all of your candidates worldwide. So obviously this is a global application, and all of the requirements for whether it relates to the different types of applications that you want to create, and whether that's by geography or just by process. You can give them the ability to upload documents like a resume, either directly from their device, or if they have a Dropbox or a Google Drive account, right? All the profile information. Everything that I'm showing you here is completely configurable based off of how you would want to set up your specific candidate profile and online application. And of course, very important is everything around data privacy. So whether that's the GDPR requirements, the U.S. obviously has its own requirements. There's plenty of other countries that have specific options and privacy requirements as it relates to how candidates can create their profiles, manage their own data, the ability to delete their data. That's all tracked through here, and it's all part of the standard solution. So let's just pretend that I went through this whole process to complete the application. I won't do this on the live site through here just to save time, but we complete that application. My profile and the associated application would now be tagged specifically to that, we'll call it the project manager requisition, and then I would be available to go through the specific applicant flow. Before I actually go through that process of screening events, the interview, the offer, I want to talk a little bit also about more of the sourcing capabilities and the candidate relationship management tools that are built into the SuccessFactors recruiting platform as well. So switching back to our recruiter role here as Tessa, if I want to do a quick candidate search just to see, and I might do this before I even post the job externally, if we're building these talent pools to find qualified passive and active candidates, I might want to, whether it's use a specific keyword search or a combination search using keywords and fielded searches from the profiles, I can find matches, based off of those queries, and then determine, are these the candidates that I want to maybe invite to apply for a specific position, or just tie them directly to one of my talent pools, right? I can do this very easily through here just by selecting the ones that have the highest match, and I can, with just a couple of clicks, add them to one of my talent pools. And think of the talent pool more or less like a CRM or a customer relationship management capability, where you have the capability to, especially for a recruiter, I want to manage passive and active candidates that may or may not be associated with a specific requisition. So I have a pool here that we'll look at today for the project managers. Again, not a specific requisition. If I go in and edit the attributes, you can see the details of this. It's very simple. You just give it a name. What is it for? What's the type of pipeline or steps do I want to associate this? And you'll see that in a second. And how do I want to populate the pool? You can actually set up these automated search queries. So I just did sort of an active keyword search for project managers, but I could have saved that search. And in this case, I do have a saved search for project managers in the UK, so that every night SuccessFactors does a scan of the candidate database, so all the new applicants that come in. And if any candidates match that search query, they'll automatically be added to my talent pool. So you can sort of set it and forget it. If I go to the details of my project management pool, you'll see that I do have a few different candidates in different steps of that pipeline. In this case, what we're trying to do is identify more or less those passive candidates, people that probably haven't applied, as new leads. Maybe I reach out to them, I look at the basic information that they provided on their profile to pre-qualify them, and I contact them. I keep track or notes on their profiles through here, and then hopefully over time develop these leads to become active applicants where I'm inviting them to apply and then moving them to a specific project manager requisition. Right? And this is just one way of doing this. There's many ways that you can manage the talent pools and the associated candidates that are attached to them. A great way of nurturing and engaging with these passive candidates is to market to them using email campaign templates. And you can create these templates directly within the SuccessFactors recruiting solution. And recruiters can do this. You can set this up from an admin perspective for your company branding and making sure that there's, sort of out to all of the passive candidates in my talent pool. I can create my own custom email message using this nice little HTML, toolbar through here, using the predefined template. Once I determine that I have my email all configured, I can see, in this case, this is looking for your dream job. You'll find it at the best run company. That's my best run company here. And the whole idea is to drive the candidates to the career site. In this case, it's just going to the sort of the general landing page of the company's career page. But, think of what you could do to target specific talent pools. For hard to fill positions, whether it's, engineers, nurses, financial analysts, senior operation leaders for retail organizations, right? The sky's the limit. In any industry, you can effectively, create your own custom tools or templates using the tools provided through SuccessFactors, and you can track the performance of all of these campaigns. So similar to that sourcing analytics report that I showed you earlier around the performance of the sources when you post the jobs externally, there's also embedded analytics that will effectively tell you, was the campaign successful? Did you actually get great candidates to be driven to the career site or to a specific, we'll call it a talent landing page on the career site? All right, so just for the last section of the demonstration here, I want to go through a few of more of the recruiter functions around more of the typical applicant workflow or the hiring process. If we are going specifically to our project manager requisition, and I want to go directly to the active candidate pipeline, we have 38 candidates, 6 of them are new, that are attached to this specific requisition. This is another great screen for the recruiter because this highlights all of the steps of our hiring process from start to finish, from the new applicants all the way through to when they're hired, and then the ones that are transitioned into onboarding. But I've already said configurable probably 5 times. This whole process is completely configurable as well, and that can be different per position or requisition. And if you have a collaborative hiring process where the recruiter works closely with the hiring managers, if it's more of a centralized process, then you can configure the workflow here to say that perhaps maybe the recruiter goes through the new applicants first and determines, all right, who do I want to initially screen, maybe do a phone screen, and then send or attach the qualified applicants to the short list. And then our hiring manager can be alerted that we have some qualified applicants to take a look at. Who do you want to bring in for the first round interview? On the flip side, if you have a decentralized process and managers, handle the entire process themselves, or it's all the recruiters themselves, that's totally fine as well. The workflow, the process, everything that you're seeing here is completely configurable by position. If I were to check off, let's say, the first few, and I have the pre-screening questionnaire sort of sorted and ranked based off of the top scores, maybe the first thing that I want to do as the recruiter is just take a look at their applications or their resumes. So Janice, do I like Janice's information? Yes, great. I'm going to move her to the phone screen and I'll call her tomorrow. And then we'll move on to the next one. Mindy, I'm not sure if she's the best candidate for this particular position. I might want to move her to the unsuccessful folder, which would send her a notification that she's been removed from consideration. Or for David, I think he's a really great candidate. I'm just going to skip the phone screen step and put him into the shortlist for the manager, or just go right to the interview. You define sort of what that process is, who has the capability to do that, and effectively moving them through the specific process. We support interview scheduling through here. If you have Outlook, this can integrate directly with Outlook calendars, so it can sync directly with the Exchange servers, Outlook 365, directly through SuccessFactors, people that have the ability to schedule the interviews, and we'll go directly to the project manager requisition here. Kara has made it to the second round interview. And as the recruiter, I might want to schedule this interview with the hiring manager and the VP in that division. Let's see. We'll do Maya and Jeff. And we'll do 30 minutes. We'll stagger it. And let's find availability for the 1 hour. And you can see it pulls in the availability directly from their Outlook calendars. And I can select multiple slots if I want and actually send these slots directly to the candidate on the career site. So in this case, Kara, who's our candidate, she'll be alerted if I were to submit this, to come back to the career site and confirm one of these times. When she does that, that's when it will send all of the appropriate Outlook meeting requests and invitations, and it will populate the interviewers' calendars. At the conclusion of the interview, they can provide their feedback through Interview Central. This is very mobile friendly. They can do it right on their phone. You have control over what these interview assessments look like. In this example, the assessments tie directly to the competencies that were attached to the job profile. If you recall from the beginning of the demo, we had 3 specific competencies, and these behaviors are what are being used with in this case, a 5-point rating scale and some notes to allow our interviewers to provide their feedback individually. If they have offline notes, they can upload them as a document, but it doesn't get much easier than this. It's kind of this thumbs up, thumbs down approach to the feedback, and they can provide overall comments as well. So you can create this sort of stack ranking approach of all of the candidates that you're interviewing for any particular position. Once we like the candidate that we want to move forward to the next step, and we'll jump forward to the offer stage. The offers are based off of templates. You can create as many different offer templates as you want. You can have an approval process if that's required. We'll use Carlton as our offer candidate. So here's an example of his specific profile. So again, still viewing this as the recruiter. All of his application information is readily available. If I want to add in some comments on his profile and share those with other users that have access through the hiring team, I can do that. I can see all the positions that he's applied for. All of the correspondence is tracked through here. Whether that's email correspondence, you have the capabilities of texting or using SMS to communicate with candidates. Right? And if we're ready to take action and create an offer, we can pull up one of the templates that we use, and SuccessFactors directly integrates with DocuSign for electronic signatures. So I have this template that has already been defined through here. A couple clicks from that initial page, I can see that all of the data from the requisition template, the candidate's profile, and my offer form have automatically merged on the offer. And we can generate the offer with the DocuSign e-signature. And this will allow us specifically to send the offer to the candidate. And just like the interview, Carlton here would get a notification when he clicks on the link to go back to the career site, review his offer in a PDF format, and then just like any other DocuSign document, he can provide his electronic signature, and then we can move him to an onboarding status. Okay. We're not going to get into onboarding today, but just note that this is a full talent acquisition platform, so it's recruiting and onboarding. So as the process continues on, when you initiate onboarding directly from SuccessFactors Recruiting, a whole new set of workflow actions kicks off both for now our new employee as well as the internal stakeholders that need to provide information or complete forms in order to fully onboard our new employee. And there's analytics that are tied around all of this. Again, just going back to the sourcing analytics that we saw for all aspects of the hiring process. So whether it's the effectiveness of your recruiting strategy, time to fill, cost per hire, how each aspect of the process affects the other parts of talent management. SuccessFactors is a full end-to-end solution that includes all aspects of HR and talent with recruiting and onboarding data. So I just went to our recruiter homepage here. You can see here's some graphical dashboards that are configured as homepage tiles so that she can come in here and very quickly see, you know, what does my candidate pipeline look like across all of my positions? Now imagine if you were a senior leader, right, or an executive. One click right from the homepage, I can see what the pipeline looks like for my business unit or for the whole company. And these are all configurable dashboards and analytics. Okay, I'm looking at the time. I want to reserve some time for Q&A. Thank you, everybody, for attending. And Jesse, I think we'll switch to the Q&A portion of the presentation.
Fantastic. If you would just go ahead and stop your screen share, we will jump back into our deck. We have quite the set of questions coming up, so let's get those going here in a moment. But first, just want to put this up in the background while we jump into Q&A. It's a brief little question, and if you or anyone in your team is interested in having a more direct conversation, you can go ahead and schedule a one-on-one meeting to discuss your specifics. I'm going to leave this up. If you're interested, hit yes, and you will be contacted. No, no one will contact you. So again, we'll leave that up for a little while, but let's jump into some of these questions. All right, Rick, do you have to create an account to apply?
That's a good question. Technically, you do have to create an account. However, the profile requirements are pretty minimal. Email address and a password is all that's needed to create the initial account, and then it's up to you as an organization what you would want to require further to fully apply, or what I'll call create an actual application.
To use job boards, doesn't recruitment marketing need to be activated?
To utilize job boards, recruiting market need to be activated. Well, technically the recruiting platform includes recruiting marketing. So the recruiting posting action, or the aggregator as I demonstrated, that's just part of the overall recruiting solution. So there's not a separate recruiting marketing module that you have to purchase. It's all one integrated solution to be able to post.
Can you schedule CRM emails?
Well, that's a great question. Yes, you can. So when we were looking at that template for, looking for your dream job, I could, if we went through and confirmed that template, you can schedule it to automatically run on a future date and time.
Can you set up multiple brands with the career admin tools?
Yes, you can. So there are self-service tools for the career site. We call it the Career Site Builder tools. And you have the capability to configure either just a top-level corporate brand with other entities, or you can have completely separate career sites with their own brand, all managed through the single platform of SuccessFactors Recruiting.
I see an Ask HR on the top bar of the talent pipeline. Can you explain how we would be able to use this? Is it an email that goes out to the HR team?
Yes, that's actually tied for specifically either notifications that go to your internal HR. I've seen where this ties to more of the automated responses or chat bots that can be integrated in. We have some great partnerships with solution extensions from SuccessFactors that can tie into that, so it's more automated, but yes, that's what that is for.
How does the employer communicate to candidates via SMS?
So users can use the SMS capabilities to send texts directly to candidates from the correspondence templates. So you can create a correspondence template to be an email, a text, or both. As of today, it's just a one-way communication with the texts. So if I wanted to send a notification to a candidate that I wanted to reach out to them for a phone screen, it could be an email, but it also could just be a text that they receive. They can't reply to the text to get back to me, but that's something that we're looking towards as far as a bidirectional communication in the future. However, I will preface that there is a prerequisite that in order to use the SMS capabilities within SuccessFactors, you do have to have a separate contract with the SAP, forgive me, I forget the actual group, but it's a digital interconnectivity platform that's provided through SAP that's outside of the SuccessFactors platform.
Does job profile builders separate out basic qualifications from other qualifications?
It can, absolutely. So when I pulled up the job profile builder, there was that capability for my sort of senior recruiter user to modify what the profile template looked like, and you could call out basic qualifications from other qualifications however you wanted to design the template.
Do you have any canned U.S. federal EEO or AAP analytics?
We do. Great question. So we do have a set of delivered reports within the recruiting solution that tie to the U.S. EEOC and the OFCCP guidelines, especially around the definition of the internet applicant, the standard EEO1 reporting. If you do have any affirmative action planning, that's also a report that can be configured through here. There's a delivered set, sort of standard, I would say, through every new implementation that our customers go through. these delivered reports are modified. There are new ones that are created. There is an embedded ad hoc tool that's very easy to use. And now we also provide people analytics. We have an embedded analytics package that will be part of the SAP Analytics Cloud that ties directly to the SuccessFactors data. That's a new feature that will be available at the end of this year for all SuccessFactors recruiting customers, where there'll be a lot more content and flexibility around embedded analytics, as well as any extended analytics that include additional workforce analytics and planning data within the enterprise.
Can you provide an example of how we could use the tag functionality when reviewing resumes?
Sure. Anytime you're viewing a candidate's profile, either through a list or like a search results, or if I'm individually looking at a candidate profile, you have the capability of tagging, and it's essentially just creating like a keyword tag. So I could say, you know, if I was somebody that I wanted to keep track of, maybe for one of the talent pools, but I didn't want to actually add them right now, I could tag them with the keywords project manager, you know, or Java for skills or something like that. That tag stays with them, and that's all searchable. And I could even say, oh, who are my favorite candidates? And then, again, it all links closely with the talent pools within the CRM.
You're doing great here, Rick. We've got a few more questions here in our queue. Let's keep at them. How do you handle it when it's decided to change the level of a position to be filled?
How do you handle it when it's decided to change the level of the position to be filled? So if that's referring to if I want to change any of the requisition details, you can make these fields editable on the requisition template, and that can be permissioned by user group. So it could be something where the recruiter has the capability of changing the level, but maybe not the hiring manager. So you can, this all ties back to the job profile builder. You know, do you want to create a library of positions that are sort of fixed, and any changes at sort of a macro level need to be approved by HR? You know, all the way to anybody could go in and modify any requisition and change a position category or a salary grade. It's up to you as to how you want to facilitate that workflow.
How would you convert an evergreen rec to fill an individual position?
So you have the capability of using or creating evergreen requisition templates where you could have multiple positions per requisition. So I like to think of it as you have a master requisition, let's say for, and this is typical for a non-exempt or hourly high volume scenario, right? Let's say I have retail associates in a store location. I'm not going to create 10, sales associate requisitions, right? I'll just have one sales associate with 10 vacancies. That position is always open. It's available on the career site, and as long as there are openings, people can apply and be hired against that position, and I can convert a hire on a position basis that's still tied to that specific evergreen rec. If I wanted to remove the evergreen portion of that requisition and just make it a one-to-one, again, as long as I have the capability to do so, I can drop it down to a one-position requisition.
Can we have our own workflow?
Oh, absolutely. So whether that ties into your hiring process, so the active applicants, whether it's the talent pool process within the CRM, where you saw new leads, qualified, contacted, moved to requisition. Each position can have a different workflow. Each talent pool can have a different workflow.
How are new candidates identified? Is it since last visit?
If this is referring to their, if we're looking at the new application, so where you saw that there were new candidates attached to the active requisitions, those would be new applications for that requisition. So I could be a candidate that maybe applied a year ago to a different position that I didn't get, and if I if I complete another application or a new job bid, it's the same profile, but I would have a new application for that requisition. So from the recruiter's perspective, my new application would appear as new within that new requisition. But once I'm viewed by that recruiter, then I've been seen.
How hard is it to turn on and off position control?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question. I guess it all depends on, to the extent that you're using position management. SuccessFactors is vendor agnostic. This obviously seamlessly ties into the Employee Central core HR platform. So if you're managing positions directly through SuccessFactors and Employee Central, it's not difficult at all. If it's a third-party application, other HR systems, I can't really speak to those. There could be some differences in workflow and how rules are set up in the HRMS versus SuccessFactors. I can just speak from an SAP product perspective. We've designed these products to integrate seamlessly with one another as well as the workflows.
How do you quickly differentiate an external versus an internal candidate? And can you change their type if it's incorrect?
Yeah, another great question. So on any search results from a candidate perspective, when you're looking at candidates, there's a little icon that identifies them as an internal versus an external. I forgot to point that out in the demo, but hopefully people saw that there was like a little blue index card next to the top candidate under the project manager pipeline. That designates that particular candidate is an internal employee. They're also highlighted if you go to the details of their profiles to very easily differentiate between an internal versus an external, so that you know that this particular candidate is an internal employee.
In case you have multiple recruiters, can you separate positions between them without sharing the entire list of positions under review in the company?
You can do that. So the role-based permission model of the SuccessFactors platform allows you to typically by org structure, sort of segregate the data by that structure. So if you wanted one particular, I'll answer this two different ways. If you have two recruiters that work in two different groups and you don't want them to see each other's position information with the candidates that are attached to them, you can restrict that access by, whether it's department or location or division or business unit. If it's multiple recruiters that are members of the same group or the same requisition, that's where it starts to get more difficult. It's not really a technology problem. It's more of just, I would say it's just more of a company sort of policy around the data privacy internally among the different users. The more collaborative approach that you have, the easier it is to manage the data, just from my perspective.
Excellent. We still have questions coming in here, so let's keep going down the line. This is a multi-part question about integration to Employee Central. If that exists, how does a unique ID used in recruiting turn into EC unique ID? Let's start with that.
Okay, let's see. How does a unique ID in recruiting turn into, all right, so when somebody is hired in SuccessFactors recruiting with Employee Central as the core, their sort of pending hire information is processed within Employee Central. Employee Central will generate a unique employee ID. Depending upon whether or not SuccessFactors onboarding is used, typically when it is, there's a temporary ID that's assigned to the now hired employee, where during their pre-hire state, if they were going to access onboarding, they would be doing so prior to their start date, and they would have the capability of accessing the new hire portal using that temporary ID information. However, on the back end for HR, the effective date of when day one is, most likely in the future from that hire date, that, or let's say like the offer accepted or the hire date, that temporary ID automatically converts to a permanent ID, just like every other employee, once their start date passes. And then I'm looking at some additional questions that were part of that one. It's a fully integrated talent platform. So the question that expands into how does it work with the learning management system. So if there's a new hire learning curriculum that's been assigned, you can proxy enroll all new hires through recruiting and onboarding, the people that are hired, and then go through the onboarding process so that everything ties to that specific ID, so that when they are accessing their learning plan, typically this would happen after day one, they immediately know, all right, I'm a new hire, I have required HR training, I have safety training, I have my position training I need to go to. It's all part of the integrated platform of SuccessFactors.
Outstanding. All right, do you have reports that are available to show how candidates were moved forward or declined at each stage in the process?
Yes, so that's one of the delivered reports. You can see from a pipeline view how many candidates are in a particular stage, did they advance to the next stage, so whether that's screening events, how many interviews, successful, feedback that takes them to the next stage, how many offers were accepted, rejected, et cetera. Whatever the status is or the sub-statuses of each one of those steps in the candidate or the talent pipeline, they're all reportable.
How can we use screening questions to pre-screen candidates?
That's a great question. So on the requisition template, one of the things I didn't show, just because I wanted to make sure we got through everything, is creating a specific profile to have pre-screening questions that tie to the requisition. So whether they're minimal qualification type questions, if it's geographic specific, are you authorized to work in the country you're applying to? Would you be willing to submit to a background check if that's required? Do you have a bachelor's degree? How many years of experience do you have? Whatever those are, you can create a library of questions and tie any of these questionnaires to the job profiles and the requisition templates that effectively score and rank the candidates on those scores. You can screen them in or out based on eligibility, or just as we saw in my sort of resume viewer example where I picked the top 3, those were sorted and ranked based off of their pre-screening assessment score.
Do you provide a list of appropriate disposition codes that show the status of each applicant, or do we create our own?
Yeah, it's actually both. So I'll call it, the platform is delivered with, I'll call it the best practices implementation methodology. So even though I say it's configurable, 100 times over, there is a starting point. So it's not like we just give you this blank, template or canvas and say, oh, figure out all the content yourself. So the starting point based off of, all of our previous successful implementations and just our vast industry expertise from all of our consultants and our partner consultants, that's the starting point. So in this particular case, there would be a set of standard disposition codes that are pretty common across multiple industries. However, they're all configurable. You can add your own company-specific where appropriate.
If a requisition is changed from a manager to a senior manager level in recruiting, does the change flow back into Employee Central and update it there also?
It does. So if you're talking about specifically the hiring team members that are specifically linked to a requisition and you change any of the aspect of their profile, so if the manager gets, if it's the same person and they just change jobs, they're still attached to the requisition. If it's a different person, you can do that at the requisition level if you want individually, or there's even the capability of mass reassigning requisitions to different people, based on somebody that moves from one, maybe somebody's moving from one job to another and they no longer obviously would be the hiring manager for those requisitions. Whoever the new incumbent is could inherit those, or the admins or the recruiters can reassign them en masse.
Excellent. All right, we have a few more questions. We are nearing the top of the hour, so Rick, let us enter the lightning round and try and tackle these as best we can with the time remaining. Are the pre-screen questions able to be automatically added to the rec to ensure consistency, or do they have to be manually added on each rec?
As of today, you would initially add them manually. You can create the questionnaire and attach it to the requisition manually. Once you've created the questionnaire and you want to reuse that for a similar requisition, you could copy that requisition template to create the new one, and the associated questions will go forward with it.
Can we have the candidate apply for a job position from LinkedIn without requiring to create a login?
The answer to that is no. So if they see the position on LinkedIn, the button will say apply on company website, I believe. When they click on that button, they'll automatically be redirected to your career site. The analytics will track that they originated from LinkedIn, so the sourcing is correct, but then they'll be directed to create a profile on your career site.
Does SuccessFactors Recruiting integrate with background and drug screen results?
Yes, it does. We do have several partnerships with background and drug test vendors, as well as a whole host of other partners around like assessments or video interviewing. And like First Advantage is one of our preferred partners for background check and drug screening. And you have the capability of initiating the checks directly through the SuccessFactors Recruiting talent pipeline and receiving the results back on their candidate profile.
Can pre-screening questions differ between internal and external candidates by applicant type?
That's a great question. So that is on our roadmap, I believe, in the next year or so. I'm not sure exactly, but I do know that is a roadmap item to be able to separate out the questions by type. But in the current version, the answer is no.
And our final question, where do you disposition job applicants?
So at any step in the talent pipeline where you saw that blue bar across the middle when we were looking at it from the recruiter's perspective, I can disposition from any one of those steps. I could say, I want to drag and drop these 5 candidates and disposition them out, or if I'm within a particular group, I can say, for the phone screen candidates, the next disposition would be schedule first round interview. I can do it one at a time, or I can do mass actions from the pipeline view or the individual candidate profile view.
Well, wonderful. I do want to thank everyone for joining us today. A big thanks to our speaker, Rick Lynn, and to you, our audience. Thank you for your time and your wonderful questions. If you'd still like a chance to sign up for a one-on-one meeting with SAP SuccessFactors, you have a chance, because in a few moments, a voluntary survey will pop up asking for your feedback on today's session, and it includes a way to request a one-on-one meeting. This is a great way to reach out and ask for more personalized information and get those answers you're asking, as well as to help us shape our future webinars. Just a reminder that today's webinar has been recorded, and we'll be sending all of you a link to the replay in the coming days. We hope that you'll join us in 1 month for the next demo in our series, which will cover SAP Signature Management with DocuSign. If you'd like to register for this event, you can use a link that will be provided in the follow-up email with the replay. Again, thank you for joining in today's session. Have a great day.